Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in my digital world, brought to us by Tempus Network, we are joined by Shahal Khan, CEO of Tempus Network, and he is joined by Constantin Kogan, co-founder of BullPerks and GamesPad. He's a partner at Pitbull Capital, founder of Adwevo, and former managing director at Wave Financial. And as an influencer and meta connector, Constantine is on a personal mission to help talented entrepreneurs disrupt various industries with blockchain technologies. And he has found the perfect platform right here on A Moment of Zen. Today, we're chatting about blockchain gaming, play to earn models, what the monetization incentives look like for gamers, the importance of the communities surrounding these platforms, and how it all ties into the metaverse. Now, in recent news, Cross the Ages, which is a free-to-play game that features digital trading cards as non-fungible tokens, recently announced a 12 million seed round. Now, investors, not surprisingly, included Animoca Brands, major game publisher Ubisoft, Polygon, which is the blockchain powering the game, and Sebastian Bourget, COO of the Sandbox. All of this is very, very telling, my friends, of a rising industry. Now, blockchain gaming is a flourishing area of the crypto industry, which is actually more and more viewed as a clever way to bring the next big wave of people into crypto. Now, in January of this year, the number of active blockchain games had doubled from the prior year. Now, since it's become clear that cryptocurrency isn't its only use case, blockchain is now disruptive tech with its game-changing applications, no pun intended. Experts say gaming will be one of the main real use cases for blockchain. Now, if you think of it strategically, blockchain could completely restructure the industry, turn the tables on the monopolistic console market, create a multiverse, and make games more immersive than ever. Now, the stream of blockchain investing has dramatically increased. In 2019, we had already seen over $108 million in venture capital investments. Now, the main use for blockchain within gaming's realm, in a word, is liquidity. And here to chat some more are Shahal Khan and Constantin Kogan. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks, Sen.
Constantin, nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So nice to have you back, Shahal. Okay, Constantine, I'm going to start with you. So blockchain's application in gaming is in many ways a no-brainer because gamers are already accustomed to tokenization. And some of the earliest games featured applications of virtual currency. But games have evolved and they've fused with the internet. Now, in-game gold items can be purchased with real-life fiat currency. Now, this could be particularly useful for the free to play model popularized by Fortnite, wherein the majority of gaming revenue is generated by in-game purchases, right? Such as skins, which is funded by the digital currency. Talk to me about this model, and does it have the ability to disrupt GameFi even further?
For sure. I think, you already mentioned that the number of games, especially tokenized games, doubled, this year. And I think it will grow further. Like the GameFi is a new trend. Obviously, right now in the bear market, it's a bit hard to be so positive about it because the earnings of the play-to-earn games, they declined seriously as the market is correlated to the earnings. Actually, one of our portfolio companies, the Rainmaker, they do the ratings of how much can you earn per day, for example. So you can go there and see how fun it is to play, how much you can earn, and you pick your own game. Guilds are having the similar model, right? You can join a guild and participate in to play games, and they will navigate you as a scholar. So we definitely believe that's the future. The big brands are coming in like more and more. We've seen like Gucci, Prada, Nike, like you name it. Like all the biggest brands right now present in the metaverse with the gamification and NFTs was part of it to create a new revenue stream. And it's thought to believe that in the coming years the industry will get to $1 trillion. That means when the brands are coming, they bring new budget and the potential earnings of the economies that are deflationaries and well constructed, they will survive. I do believe that some of the economies, I'm talking about token metrics and some of the in-game design and economies that were not well designed, they will probably collapse. That's my prediction, and we see that already in the early play-to-earn games. Again, not to not to put names, to criticize some of the big
Right.
projects that we all know, but it was geared and targeted to low income families and emerging markets. And when the time was that they will earning more than their average salary, and they need to spend 6 to 8 hours playing game, that made sense. Now it's not. So let's be honest, there are a lot of experiments here, and just briefly, I would say that the games that will find the perfect way to create the balanced economies, they will not collapse, and they will have enough liquidity, they will have enough through partnerships, and they will have several revenue streams to outperform the market, and not to be correlated with the bear market or the bull market. I think those will be the winners.
Wow. I love this perspective. And I love that you are playing devil's advocate, because that's what people want to hear. They want to understand what are the risks involved, which ties in very nicely. And Shahal, you're going to have what to say about this one. But and this is really addressed to both of you, but more for Shahal to answer this one, because overall, the global market for NFTs swelled to 25 billion last year. And that's from 100 million in 2020. So this is a huge leap. And a fifth of that does come from video games. But much of the action, to your point, Constantine, has occurred in places like the Philippines, where low-income players have really embraced, a play-to-earn model that can net them a steady income of a few dollars a day. But this is, in fact, truly, if you look at it bird's eye view, blockchain gaming at its best. But everything has a foil, and there's one particular barrier for Axie Infinity players. So you need to buy 3 Axie characters to be able to play the game and earn rewards. Now, these NFTs are fetching at around $400 each, pricing out many potential players. Shahal, this model doesn't seem fair and rather offensive to the game. What are your thoughts?
Well, Zen, first of all, a proper game, as we understand it to be, that has a complete immersive and storyline, and people can actually build out an ecosystem and an economy in a game, takes a very long time. It takes a lot of money. These, were sort of experiments that started in order to see if it would catch on. But the issue is that it created more problems than anything else. It created guilds, it created people getting into debt. And at the end of the day, it ended up having the fact that assets that are created can't be traded. And you almost have, I hate to say it, but a reverse of the actual intention of having people earn and be able to earn income, enough income in their market so they can actually, feed their families and actually be part of an ecosystem. So what we've been trying to do, and I appreciate this tremendously about Constantine, is we're very patient, we're very sort of long term. We want to create aspects of not just gaming, because sometimes you have to just create a game so people can participate in it and earn money. But you have to create across the metaverse an engagement mechanism where you're actually taking data sovereignty and actually compensating people for the data that they're creating. So it's not just people having to put money up front or having to buy in-game assets that they may not ever be able to sell, but compensating people on a sort of work to play environment. And that now becomes a real part of an economy. And I think that's very important for people like Constantine that understand that, to keep on developing games in that area. And for us, people that are investing in communities and engagement, to be able to find the right time to come together to really make this sustainable.
Without a doubt. And if you look at even what they're doing over at GamesPad, Constantine, hats off to you as the co-founder of GamesPad. It's a gaming NFT and metaverse ecosystem. And we know that in your ecosystem, it includes a support system aimed at helping game developers address some of the key challenges they face in building new play to earn games. And I love your model because it's designed to really kind of supercharge, right, the growth of the GameFi sector. Not many people are doing it effectively. And also you're empowering game entrepreneurs and providing investment opportunities for the community, which is kind of more unique because you're taking a power to the people approach. But let's go back. Web3 now is going to become this infrastructure that's going to enable the implementation of new tools, products, and types of monetization in the tech market. But will users be able to regain control over their data? Like Shahal said, what will happen to ads and monetizing? And won't it be just a repackaging of the same thing in a new wrapper? What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, but a bit hard to answer. Like it really depends by project, because some of the project actually embrace the concept of DAO, like the centralized autonomous organization, where people can vote and they can make decisions. I'll be frank with you. I believe that DAOs are great as a concept, but not for every project. Like sometimes you need central authorities. I mean, there's a reason why countries still have like parliaments, they have presidents, they have like someone as a one or person or a board of like people who are making decisions, and not because they're better, just because of the competency. Like, we need to evaluate the skill sets of the people who are able to vote on certain big decisions for the ecosystem, and that requires just a lot of research and a lot of time, right? Some people are spending full time of just being degens and yield farmers and many other creative notions, but others, they just don't have time. They have
Yeah.
1 hour a day to see what is the best project and how they allocate to maybe have some passive income in their mindset, but they don't have enough time to understand whether this NFT particularly give them some governance, like voting rights, or the token will give them governance rights. So that becomes it more complex when 70 to 80% of your community are not having the full picture of what you're doing. So I think,
Right.
to answer your question, it really depends on how the founders are educating. Like, for example, we spend a lot of time just providing educational content, like what's the value proposition, what's the basics of the industry. And for someone who's long in the industry, it may seem like, whoa, that's obvious. It's not. We're still in
Yeah.
the very early stage of adoption.
Infancy. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and the
And we have
metaverse. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, we have about 2 minutes left. I want to make sure I get this last question into Shahal before we cut to a commercial break. But, I believe that those who bridge the divide between Web 2 and Web 3 by providing Web 2 interfaces with Web 3 monetization models are the ones who are going to succeed, since the users are still on the internet and most Web 3 products have very minuscule daily active users. Shahal, how is Tempus revolutionizing things in Web 3 and really compensating people for their time? You have about a minute and a half.
Yep. Funnily enough, that is something I'd love Constantine to actually take. I mean, Tempus, it's an engine. It's basically an algorithm that I've developed. I put a patent, but what it does, it has to be modified and put into every single new game environment. As Constantine said, it's a switch. What Tempus is it takes monitors data, which is programmed into gameplay environments by user ID and people, and then it ties in backwards to a data sort of sales network of brands or data buyers that will compensate those people. But it has to be programmed into environments like Constantine's. You have to work almost game by game, developer by developer in the game in order to create activities that compensate people. So I'm going to send it back to Constantine, because I think he's in the throes of actually developing the actual games that can tie in and help people in that area.
You have about a minute if you want to answer the question.
No, I think it was well said. Again, at the end of the day, the monetization will depend on the models. On particular, there's 7 different ways how you can monetize your NFT depending on their type. Some of them will have more than just one utility. I think that is also very important. If we're talking about NFTs that are just art, that's one level of monetization. If we're talking about utilities of the in-game assets, that will be tradable on marketplaces, and that will allow people to actually monetize their presence. I think that's the future, and it all depends on the founders who will focus on providing that.
Well said. Well, listen, guys, we're at the end of our time. I want to thank you, Constantine, for coming on. Shahal, always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, that was My Digital World, brought to us by Tempus Network. Now, how gaming receives blockchain, why and when, is a signal that other sectors will want to follow with rapt attention. So make sure you're checking it all out, and make sure you're tuning back in. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this, and make sure you check out Constantin Kogan at GamesPad.io.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Tempus, the next generation of the engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. With Tempus, brands will have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and more. Tempus, the time is now. Engage. and earn.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to my digital world is Shahal Khan, joined by good friend, guest Constantin Kogan of GamesPad.io. And we're talking about NFTs, gamification, monetization, and all things Web 3.0. Constantin, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
Shahal, nice to see you again. Constantin, I'm going to start with you. So 80% of OpenSea's minted NFTs for free were plagiarized works, fake and spam. So what we've seen is, despite this extraordinary growth, there has been growing concerns regarding NFTs sold for free on those NFT marketplaces. In fact, OpenSea, which is the biggest NFT marketplace, valued at $13 billion after its latest round of venture funding, said earlier in this year that more than 80% of the NFTs minted for free on their very platform were plagiarized works, fakes, and collections of spam. What do you say to this?
Not much to say. We're still in a Wild West period, like it's hard to talk about. You're talking about plagiarism, like there's also IP rights, right? So where they're using some of the assets knowingly, that there will be some consequences. And it's not only plagiarized, it's they're breaking some IP rules, international one, right? But because it's such a fast pace, we no longer can control it, because it's a content that's developed by people, and the only way to control it is to completely ban uploading any NFTs, and minting them. So there is this radical solutions here. I mean, we're learning. There's no perfect solution. I hope there will be more support from global community to make sure we just build a way how to monitor those things, and maybe hopefully by voting rights remove obvious scams. That's not level number one. So we have to protect retail investors in every country in the world. That's our main priority, and educate them. The second point, I would say that I know that several infrastructures have been built to identify with the power of AI immediately the plagiarism, and remove them, also delist them. So those are two things what I would say that will help us in the near future.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Shahal, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use the most silliest example, but it's like going to Barney's, Zen, which I know you love to do, and buying, a piece of, clothing there, because you know where you're going, and and you know what you're getting. And, it's going to be the same thing. You're going into Web3 environments or metaverse environments, or you're going to game platform environments where you trust the source and you're buying it from a trusted source. That's the only way to do this. And as Constantine said, this has been a Wild West, and these are the platforms we need to create. And we need to create the Barneys of the future, where you know what you're getting and who's selling it. And that's the way we're going to stop to limit this stuff.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because when you look at it from an economical standpoint, right, the rise of this creator economy that we've all been touting and talking about, blockchain is definitely exciting from a gaming perspective, that it now fundamentally gives identity, right, to an asset which is verifiable. And once these assets become constant, it automatically gets value and can eventually be traded, which can create more value essentially. But when you look at Web3 could be an area that has massive opportunity, right? If we were able to optimize and create experiences that are also going to be leading to livelihoods of people, because that's what's happening right now with gamification, even in third world countries. It's hard to get people to spend, but if you're able to make a gamer provide a way to earn some livelihood and then make him a consumer, then he's spending. And those economics can actually be shaped up and modeled in a country like India better than statistically than in any other country. So I do believe that there's a place and time right now for those who understand it to get in at the early inception. But when you have companies like GamesPad, when you have patents like yours in Tempus, that's the infrastructure that this industry needs to be able to pave the way for brands coming into Web3 that absolutely have no idea how to really kind of take this on wholeheartedly. And lastly, if I could just get some opinions here from Constantine and from you, when you're looking at the market and you have advice to give to somebody in their infancy, where they are a brand that's up and coming and they want to enter the metaverse and they want parcels of land in the metaverse and they want to establish themselves next to Gucci and next to Balenciaga, who already have presence in the metaverse. what should they really truly be thinking about in a prioritized kind of way from an entrepreneurial standpoint?
Wow, that's also a good question. So I would say that they should be thinking like, what's the value proposition for the brands? Because let's be honest, we talked with several metaverse, we invested in several already, like, and some of the projects already have existing brands, and the reason why they're able to pull it out because they have users, they have actual users, and that's what the brands want. Listen, for some it's just a marketing gimmick. Let's be honest, it's an experimentation. They just want to pull up a cool post that they are present in the metaverse, and that's all.
Yeah.
While for others, they actually want to see results, sales. They want to see how will it convert, like into something like of a product where whether it's virtual or physical doesn't matter, but they want to see sales, and
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. If you have bigger community and you're able to create a stickiness, in this community, they have not a good retention, and those are traditional metrics in any project, right? If you
Yeah.
care about this and you create, as Shahal mentioned, like immersive experiences, and they're exciting, people really want to stay. Not because you give them free tokens, but because they really genuinely enjoy the socializing. They enjoy some activity inside the game or inside the metaverse. I think that's the key.
I agree. And Shahal, when you're talking about gaming communities, I know that you're in the process of acquiring something major, and you're dealing with a surplus of users that you could be able to now take and put on a platform and then help them monetize their time passively while they're sleeping with your innovations and your patents. But when you look at, for instance, Bill Gates, right, he described blockchain as a technological tour de force. So the NASDAQ CEO, Bob Griefeld, said it's the biggest opportunity set we can think of over the next decade. But there's been a lot of people poisoning the well. And to Constantine's point, when we see dips in the market right now, and all of these digital assets losing their value essentially overnight, because of course we know that the feds have very strategically now increased, the interest rates here, and it's totally affected cryptocurrency. Shahal, what is the correlation between how markets move, between now cryptocurrency being directly affected by our markets? Does it have the ability to disrupt other asset classes?
Yeah. So, well, yeah. So let me just first answer one very important thing. What we've been doing is investing, other than this patent, and engagement in community. And the most important thing is community, community, community. You need to protect that community. And then the communities that we're building through our investments in gaming and esports and everything else tie into companies like Constantine has that are creating gamified platforms. And we have to get that quality perfected. And we've got to find a bridge where, when both are ready, they combine to give people the most benefit. So that's number one. Number two, it's funny because the guys on Wall Street always said that we have nothing correlated with crypto, and all of a sudden stocks go down, and then you find out that the same guys that are, poo-pooing all over crypto were deeply in it, because what would have happened is there would have been an uncorrelation, right? Crypto would have gone up, and those guys would have gone down, and would have been uncorrelated. But it's correlated because they were investing in it. Yeah. And I think everybody wants an alternative system of finance, of income generation that's outside of inflation. We need to create new methods of digital, let's say, economy and infrastructure to be able to trade assets seamlessly, either on metaverses or just digital assets that are securities. And I think that's coming because most governments just care about their central banks. Yeah. And, they can't handle inflation right now. And, people that are getting damaged by this, there's a point they're going to say that it's enough. And, that's where we start to see deep changes. And there are a lot of changes going on in the world today, that are going to surprise people, and they're going to have other regulated places to be able to safeguard their assets. And I think we've got to look for those and work towards those.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure chatting with you again. Constantine, thank you for coming on the show. Shahal, always love having you on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was My Digital World, brought to us by Tempus Network. Check out Shahal Khan. Head to tempus.network, and Constantin Kogan, co-founder of GamesPad. Head to gamespad.io, and also check out BullPerks.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.